Emotional colonialism. What is emotionalism? Are you a victim of emotional colonialism? Now we enter a realm so sordid, so invisible, and so intimate. It rivals the work of Satan himself. We are not talking about violence. We are not talking about corruption. We are talking about something worse, the deliberate hijacking of a human mind. This is the place where false fathers pretend to love the children they abuse, where liberation movements become emotional slave masters, where people cheer for their oppressors and hate those who try to free them. This is dark psychology at a political level, the place where guilt, gratitude, and fear are twisted into chains far stronger than iron. And the worst part? It all happens in the name of care. This is not politics. This is soul warfare, and it's time we expose it. What is emotional colonialism? Emotional colonialism is when those in power use feelings as tools to dominate the minds of the people. Is delivered through speeches, slogans, ceremonies, and songs. It says, "You must vote for us because we liberated you. You must never criticize us or you are betraying the struggle." How emotional colonialism works. It operates in 3 steps. Emotional ownership. The ruling party repeats the phrase, "our people," endlessly, creating the illusion that the population is owned, cared for, and spoken for. But it's not care, it's control. It reduces citizens to dependence, stripping them of individuality and agency. The people are trained to identify as victims first, before identifying as workers, traders, builders, or creators. This locks them in a loop of protest, not progress. Emotional colonialism doesn't want citizens, it wants subjects. People who are obedient, angry, and too distracted to build. The cost of freedom: black, brave, and called a coconut. The twisted world of emotional colonialism: to think for yourself is treason. To rise without rage is betrayal. To succeed without the struggle anthem playing in the background is heresy. That's why, the moment a black man or woman escapes the leash of the liberation cult, the shaming begins. They're not called pioneers. They're not called free. They're not celebrated as proof that black people can build, rise, and lead without political puppeteering. No, they're called coconuts, sellouts, Uncle Toms, house Negroes, white in the mind, because in a system built on emotional control, freedom is the greatest sin. Why the name-calling exists. These labels don't come from white people. They come from black gatekeepers of the liberation movement, the ones who feel betrayed every time someone dares to grow beyond their political imagination. They say, "You speak too well? You're not really black. You're friends with Afrikaners. You've been colonized. You own a business, not a placard. You're a capitalist pig. You believe in family values and hard work. You must be a house slave." These are not insults. They are weapons. They are psychological whips meant to drag you back onto the plantation of dependence. But let's tell the truth. Coconut is simply a black person who refused to be emotionally owned. Let us move on. Here is the thing to chew. Let us be honest. Kill. The boar is not about the boar. It's not about white people. It's not even about farms or justice. It is about cementing the black mind inside the emotional cocoon of the liberation movement. It is about locking the identity of the black person into the role of eternal victim and eternal soldier. Never free, never complete, never capable of. Growth without rage. It does 3 dark things. It traps the past into the present. Every time the chant is sung, it reopens old wounds, not to heal them, but to keep them bleeding. It makes history a cage, not a teacher. It keeps the youth emotionally dependent. Young people who never fought in the struggle are taught that they are still at war. So they focus on enemies, not enterprise. On hate, not hustle. It justifies present failure with past pain. Poor leadership is excused because we are still fighting the enemy. Electricity fails, blame the boar. Crime explodes, blame the boar. Unemployment, inequality, collapse, always the boar. This is psychological manipulation of the highest order. Kill the boar isn't meant to lead to action. It's meant to halt action. It paralyzes the black mind. It shrinks ambition. It replaces personal development with performative rage. It says, you are not a builder. You are a fighter. Your job is not to grow. Your job is to hate. Stay small, stay angry, stay loyal. If kill the Boer is just a chant, why does it still echo in the mouths of men in power? If it's just history, why is it still used? To control the present? Because it is not a chant. It is a leash. And every time it is shouted, it tightens around the minds of those who believe they are free, while serving the very masters they think they oppose. This is not liberation. This is a cage, a soundproof, history-wrapped cage. The idea that Afrikaners and Black South Africans have only ever stood on opposite sides is a deliberate historical lie used by the ANC to maintain control through division. Don't let the ANC or the radicals rewrite history. Even in the time of Verwoerd, when laws separated skin, there were Afrikaner farmers who trusted Black men with their land and livestock. There were mechanics who taught skills instead of preaching ideology. There were Afrikaner families who left their tools, welding machines, and workshop keys with Black workers, not out of pity, but out of genuine trust and shared struggle. These stories were never told in newspapers, because they didn't fit. The narrative that says the Afrikaner is the eternal villain, and the Black man is the eternal victim. But the real South Africa has always been more complex and more beautiful than that lie. In rural villages, Black and white shared tobacco and jokes over fence lines. In workshops, they fixed engines together, side by side, wordless but bonded by the same oil and fire. In back rooms and farms, Afrikaner tannies gave leftover food, not as handouts, but as routine, human sharing. The ANC didn't invent this. In fact, they've tried to erase it, because it ruins the story they sell to the youth. That hatred is justified, that anger is liberation, that reconciliation is weakness. But the truth? South Africa has always been held together not by government, but by working friendships between so-called enemies. It's time we honor that truth. It's time we protect it. Because in a country full of lies, a handshake between an Afrikaner and a Black man is revolutionary. The ANC loves to say, our people this, our people that. Our people must be protected. Our people must be patient. Our people are still suffering. But here's the truth. The ANC doesn't love our people. It only owns them. Like political livestock. They say, our people. But they steal from those very people through tenders, inflated budgets, ghost workers, and fake service delivery. They say, our people. But their own children go to private schools in Sandton while township kids sit on bricks. They say, our people, but drink whiskey in Parliament while pensioners beg outside SASA offices? Our people is not language of care. It is language of control. The same way slave owners said, my workers. The same way colonists said, my subjects. Now politicians say, our people, to keep the poor emotionally chained. But the truth? The people belong to themselves. They are not property of the party. They are not foot soldiers for ideology. They are not voting stock for elections. They are builders, traders, welders, cooks, carpenters, hustlers, creators. And they are rising with or without government approval. The ANC does not own the people. They just fear what the people will become without them. So they preach dependency. They weaponize history, and they claim what they never earned. The loyalty of a people who are moving on. People's capitalism is not yours. It is not theirs. It is ours, as citizens, not as voters. The ANC uses the phrase, our people, like a sacred chant, repeating it in every speech, every rally, every press conference. But this is not the language of love. It's the language of psychological control. It's a phrase designed to sound compassionate while functioning as a tool of manipulation, ownership, and submission. Our people doesn't mean beloved citizens. It means controlled dependence. It means the governed, not the empowered. It is the same language that cult leaders use, the same language that slave masters used, the same language abusive regimes have always used to create identity confusion and learned helplessness. When they say, our people, they mean, you must wait for us. You must thank us. You must not criticize us. You must never rise without us. It's emotional colonization. It tells the poor that they are not whole unless a politician speaks for them. It creates a parent-child relationship where the party is the parent and the people are infants. forever dependent, forever waiting, forever needing. But here is the hard truth: the people do not belong to the ANC. And the ANC does not speak for the people. The people speak for themselves, in sweat, in trade, in work, in building. The man who sells vetcoag from a pot by the taxi rank is not our people. He is his own person, a sovereign worker, a mini-empire. The young woman sewing school uniforms from her shack is not our people. She is a capitalist, even if she's never used the word. This is why people's capitalism is dangerous to the political elite, because it breaks the trance. It says, you are not owned. You don't need to wait. You don't need to ask. You don't need to beg. You can build, right now, with what you have. And when the people realize they don't need saving, the saviors lose their power. That's why they fear people's capitalism. That's why they attack it.